Good evening, folks. It's Wendy on Wednesdays. That's almost a bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, thanks for joining us. If you're tuning in later, well, hello. And today we're going to do something. We're not going to try and sell you anything. Oh, gosh. But we're actually going to talk about something that's very prevalent in the industry, and that's the pet industry. So whenever I'm talking about that, I'm including everyone. Whether that's kennel workers or groomers or daycare workers or pet store assistants, managers, distributors, suppliers, vets, you name it. We are all privy to compassion fatigue in one way or another. And if some of you are not familiar with the term, basically compassion fatigue, I'm just going to read the definition straight from the Oxford Dictionary. But basically it is indifference. It says indifference to charitable appeals on behalf of those who are suffering, experienced as a result of the frequency or number of such appeals. Basically what that is a lot of us that are in the pet care industry, we are in it because we love animals and we want to help and do as much as we can to help animals feel better, make them look good, make them feel good, help them out, do surgeries, obviously if it's the vets we're including, and make them feel better and find a solution to a problem, help the pet guardian to understand their animals better, maybe for the likes of nutrition advice, or from the groomer to maintain a healthy skin and coat, to keep the nails trimmed and things like that. And you go, well, that's just, you just play with pets all day. Unfortunately, that's not actually the case. It sometimes would appear that to the average pet guardian or average person on the streets, like, oh, dog grooming's so easy, or oh, work in a pet store, oh, you lift heavy bags of dog food and you give treats to puppies all day. And unfortunately, the other side of that, and we do have some fun, obviously. We love all of those four-legged clients and some two-legged if people are dealing with birds and everything as well, or fish even. We can't exclude anyone, and whether that's from your humble little hamster to your big performance horse. Even zoos, actually, if we're looking at that as well, I mean, they are under so much flack all the time as to whether it's humane, whether it's not humane, whether it's nice, whether it isn't. And I mean, we've come a long way from where we were in the 70s with the likes of zoos, were big concrete cages and absolutely nasty, to having environments which are more conducive to the animal's well-being and in fact preventing a lot of those species from becoming extinct. But when it comes to just you and me and, you know, the dog, cat owner, the odd horse or fish, whatever, compassion fatigue can sometimes seem a little bit exaggerated to some, but it's actually an accumulation of things. So what happens is that the person in the pet care industry is doing their best. They're doing their best. They're doing their best. And they're tired. They can get burnt out very, very quickly if they don't take enough time to look after themselves and do self-care. Sorry, Mr. Dimitri's rustling around in his basket. But it can just wear on anyone. I mean, you know yourself, if you're doing any task for a while, it can become tiring, so you have to take a break. A lot of people, when they're involved with pets, and even especially the rescue agencies, kennel workers, things like that, you don't get a break because they don't have opposable thumbs that they can feed themselves, so you don't always have a day off if you're doing it on your own. So it can be very difficult to get away from the whole situation, and that just builds up over time. And if it's becoming to the point where you've been giving advice to help that animal, to create less distress in an environment, to educate maybe on better feeding. You see an animal walk into the store or something and you can just tell that the coat is lackluster, there's scaly skin all over the place, the feet, if they've got white fur, are all dyed red from either contact allergies or reactions to something in the environment, or just per nutrition in general. They have maybe lumps and bumps, they have limps, they have heads hanging, they have bad ears where they're constantly shaking their heads, lots and lots of things. So whenever that builds up, and there's, you want to help them all, and all of us in this industry want to help them all, and in some way or another, we almost feel like it's our obligation, like it's our mission to do everything we possibly can for everything that we see, or we touch, or we watch walking by. If we're sitting in the car somewhere, even at traffic lights, and see someone hauling on a leash, or jerking a puppy not necessarily the wrong way, but just not the right way to be able to leash train it, for example. And you know, as a trainer as well, you can say, I just want to jump out and hand them my card and go, call me, I can help you with this. But a lot of people want it for free as well. So they say, well, why can't you just tell me now, type thing? And it's like, well, unfortunately, this is my form of income too, so we all have to have a price tag attached to it. And a lot of people feel very obligated to help those people who are slightly less fortunate or in a bad position. And we can do that, and sometimes we do. A lot of people volunteer their time for rescues. A lot of vet techs and vets, even locally here as well, they get together and volunteer their time for a whole day to spay and neuter for the cats, the feral cats. We have lots and lots of them around. So they do that out of the goodness of their heart. And a lot of people, as I say, do appreciate that. But it's the ones who then keep asking and keep pushing and keep whining and keep making them feel guilty. Now, maybe they're not necessarily aware that they're making these pet professionals feel guilty, but the pet professional, because they feel like they're obligated to be helping an animal because that's their chosen profession and their passion and basically their whole drive and background for living almost, it wears on them after a while. And they feel taken advantage of, or they can feel ripped off, or they're then sitting at the end of the day going, well, I can't afford a massage, or I have no pension plan, or how am I going to buy supplies, or I'd really like to up my quality of stuff, but I can't afford to spend that much on that. And all of this just bottles up. And then it comes to the point where they're so burnt out, and their basic hearts are being broken because they're trying everything they possibly can, and at the end they're the ones that are suffering. So they become completely and utterly numb, where it's hard to get up in the morning. It's hard to have that joie de vivre where they want to get up and help, and they just feel like, oh well, what's the point? Nobody appreciates it. Nobody takes my advice. Nobody changes their food. Nobody thinks about doing that. Nobody goes and gets that checked out to their vet. Or, they still aren't clipping the nails. I mean, imagine yourself, just for an example, if you had to walk around barefoot all the time and your nails were 3 inches longer than your feet. So your feet are actually now crippled into a position that you have to walk in. That's what happens when you don't trim a dog's nails. Nobody sees that. Well, I won't say nobody, that's a bit dramatic. But a lot of people fail to realize that that is such an important part, because once those feet go offline, then the wrists go offline, the elbows go offline, the shoulders, the hips, and then you get discomfort going throughout the whole animal. And then they're running to the vet with something that could have been prevented if they had been trimming their puppy's nails since they came into their home. I mean, that sounds so bizarre and so blatantly obvious, but for a lot of people it's not. But it's just little things like that come into the pet industry realm, and for us as pet professionals, that we see on a daily basis. And we have some absolutely fantastic clients on the flip side. Please don't forget that. We see a lot of people they'll bring us jams or cookies or a Tim Hortons on the way up the road first thing in the morning. Just tiny little things like that just make you realize that they get it and that they understand. Or as groomers as well, another lovely thing is an actual tip. Whether they're working from home, whether they're working in a big corporate store, it doesn't matter. A lot of compassion fatigue can also come into play where you have grooming salons in another business, of another pet store business, or even in a vet office or something. And they're under certain rules and regulations by that company's banner that they're under. And therefore they can only do so much themselves. And that can even wear from that side of the thing, so from their employers as well as from their clients. So they're getting hit double ways. So I put in the title as well, was it bitchy or burnt out? So some days if you take Fluffy into your groomer, who's usually all up and fantastic and wonderful, and you haven't seen them for the last 6 weeks since the last groom, and you walk in and they're just gnarly, like they're just snappy, irritable, they're burnt out. They're quite simply burnt out. And it gets to the point where a lot of them will actually just leave the profession because there really is no other alternative. A lot of the people who maintain the irritability or their begrudginess of having to show up think they don't have a choice. They can't do anything else. They may be in their 60s, have done this for 40 years, and they're just having to do it until they can retire, if they can ever afford to retire, because they've been giving away grooms or giving away product and giving away advice and trying to cut deals and stuff like that. So when it comes to the actual professional side, please start charging your worth. If you get the sad stories, you always get the sad stories. The sad stories will always come. I mean, we all know that Fluffy only got mad because they rolled around in the back of the car on the way to the grooming shop. And we all know as groomers that that's absolute nonsense. So pet people, if you're watching, we know it's nonsense. We know how long it takes a dog to get matted, and we know how it can be prevented. So you can help us as well by maintaining those coats in between the grooms, by maintaining them, by actually doing some Google searching. There's so much available online now for education. The big thing about the online part too is we're always getting more stuff from that. Social media has its benefits, it also has its complete downsides too, because there are so many groups out there now with pet owners and basically bashing groomers or bashing vets or bashing the daycare worker or bashing the dog walker or whoever it is. And unfortunately, whenever you're part of those groups, you're adding more as the pet professional, you're adding more to your compassion fatigue by trying to jump on and protect your fellow industry associates, whether you've met them or not. You try to defend them, you look at the reasoning. Sometimes you'll go on and say, hang on a minute, if this had happened instead, or why can't you see it from that point of view? But a lot of people, as you know as well, they just want to go into social media and do their postings and their nasty threads, and if it makes them feel better about how they didn't brush their coat for 3 months and expect the dog to come out completely mat free and fluffy and it came out shaved in a 7-blade, we're never going to make those people happy. The thing is, as pet professionals, we have to realize that, and the biggest thing is we need to practice self-care. So whether that involves getting out and doing something different, a lot of pet care professionals go out and party with other pet care professionals, and that's not necessarily a good end because the conversations around the table always end up going, oh, you should have heard what happened, and that's not helping anybody out. Get out, find your happy place, whether that's out on a horseback ride, whether that's walking in the woods, whether it's going to the beach, whether it's shopping in the mall, whether it's meditation, whether it's watching a movie, having a bath. Just do it. Even if you say, well, I don't make enough to afford a therapist, or I can't go and get a massage, at least start practicing some self-care. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your clients, especially those ones that you love to absolute bits and you never want to see them leave. And then of course you also have the added traumas, if you want, that adds into the burnout, which results in compassion fatigue whenever those pets pass away. Trust me, pet people, whenever Fluffy sees the Rainbow Bridge, we cry too, because we love them, especially if we've been seeing them for every 6 weeks for the last 5, 10, 12, maybe even more years. And certainly whenever you've loyal clients in the industry, you're used to seeing them that often. You may even, as the vet, whelp the puppies, and you've seen half of the litter come through the doors every so often for help or for the initial vaccinations and for something that they scratched or damaged or broke. And then that passes on and you have to actually suffer with the pet owner, and you do share the grief with them whenever you put them to sleep as well. So it's something that's always taught in the veterinary schools and vet tech courses as well. But with the grooming industry, pet store workers, dog walkers, trainers, things like that, we don't actually have an official school. There's no actual official regulations that we have to be part of before we can call ourselves any of those titles, apart from the vets or the vet techs, as I say. So with that, we're not learning a lot of that stuff. So a lot of people have never understood what they're going through. And a lot of people work by themselves, especially the groomers, the home-based groomers. This is Canada. We have so many rural groomers. I ship to them all the time. And they're right in the middle of nowhere. They work from home on their own. So they don't realize that there's something wrong until it might be too late, until they are so tired and burned out that an accident happens, and then that gets the bad rap all over Facebook or all over their community or the town that, oh, Fluffy's ear got cut, and things that will and do happen. It's not the end of the world. Of course, I have to take out the little pocket of the ones who beat dogs, who hang them on tables, who let them fall off the tables to teach them a lesson. And those people just should not be in the industry at all, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure a lot of you agree with me whenever you don't actually have that view. So that was just a little bit to explain what compassion fatigue is. If you're in the pet care industry, I understand, and there are lots of people that do. If you're one of the pet guardians watching this tonight, or whenever you watch this at a future date, please understand, everyone's saying to be nice and don't take it out on the groomer. Don't barrage them because they clipped a little bit too short. It was probably because the dog was matted, and you could have helped prevent that rather than just sounding off on the groomer who had to clip that mat out. Also as well, things will happen if a dog's not used to coming for grooming. So if you're trying to get away with bringing your dog once a year to groomers, don't do it. A lot of groomers won't even accept clients that are only willing to do that now, because it's not even so much a nightmare because it's going to be a shave down. It's also a nightmare for the animal, and you really don't want to be tormenting your animal that much, do you? Whenever you're stressing them out to the point that they will basically sleep for 3 days and hide under the bed whenever they go home. Because what you just took them to witness was not a haircut. It was a completely traumatic experience in their vision. Whether that groomer has been as kind can be, has taken extra time and not charged you, or has taken extra time and charged you through the nose, which they should have. It's not the groomer's fault, so don't take it out on them. Also as well, just be nice, all of you, and even within the industry, to each other. There's so much animosity between other fellow pet care professionals as well, and there's really no need for it. We're all in the same boat here, and if we all work together, everybody might have a nicer time and a longer, healthier and happier career. So just things to think about, but I'll leave you on that. Well, we don't have to ramble anymore tonight. Thanks again for watching. Again, it's Wendy from dogsofpride.com, and be kind. Be nice to yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye.